Hey everybody, Pastor Jim here from the Indian Lake Community Church in the Lighthouse of Indian Lake. Hope this finds you safe, happy, and well on this autumn afternoon, October the 21st. A little bit different from last week. Last week I did a video and I was outside in the blue skies and the sunshine. We talked about the beautiful fall foliage and everything that was around us, and it was a nice day. Last night we had thunderstorms come through, lots of heavy rain, and the wind came sideways, and a little bit of a different day today. It's been gray and rainy and windy and leaves flying around, and just a beautiful day, I think, because I'll let you in on something here. I love gray, rainy fall days. They're my favorite. I just love days like this. The only thing better than a gray fall rainy day is a gray winter day with snow coming sideways. That is the best. I love gray days more than sunshiny days. I mean, sunshiny days, yeah, they're all right. But a gray day like this where it's rainy or snowy, there is nothing better, in my opinion, than those as far as weather goes. People don't understand that. They think I'm crazy. And maybe they're right, but I'll tell you this, I love these kind of days. And I'll tell you something else that people don't understand. So I have two favorite days a year. One is Christmas Day. Love Christmas Day. That goes without saying. My second favorite day of the year is the day that daylight savings time ends. Because when you fall back in the fall as opposed to springing forward in the spring, when you fall back and you know you're going to go to bed and get an extra hour of sleep, and you know that from that point forward it's going to be getting dark like around 5 o'clock, I love that. There is something about it getting dark at 5 o'clock or somewhere in there that just brings me peace and joy. Why? I have no idea. It's just the way I'm programmed. It's the way I've always been. I love that. I would just like to do away with daylight savings time altogether. I don't understand it. Not a big fan of it. And don't get me wrong. I know why we do it, because it's an extra period of daylight to where farmers can be out in the field and people can be productive and all these kinds of things. That's great. But in my opinion, whether it's a real quote or not, I don't know, but I've always loved this. It was a Native American chief, and supposedly he said, only the government would think you could cut a foot off the top of a blanket, sew it to the bottom of the blanket, and get a longer blanket. Exactly the way I feel about daylight savings time. Now, you may love it. That's fine. I don't understand it. I don't see the need for it. I don't think it's the greatest thing in the world like most people do, or at least some people do. To me, it's kind of like, okay, we have periods of daylight and darkness. God created the heavens and the earth. He separated the day and the night. There you go. And we come along and we're like, all right, but I'm going to do you one better because, we're going to get an extra hour out of this somehow. And so we're going to mess everybody's sleep pattern up, and we're going to do this daylight savings time thing. And there you go. And then we've been arguing about it ever since. And to me, daylight savings time is indicative of when we make decisions and we really don't consult God or involve Him in the process, okay? My question is, when we make decisions and when we put things in place, whether it's public policy, government, or in our personal lives, we ask ourselves the question, are we doing God's will, or are we doing our will and asking God to ordain it? Okay, that's the big question, because times in my life where I've made decisions, and I've made decisions based on what I think is best and what I want in life, and then expect God to ordain it, doesn't always work out that well. In fact, most of the time, doesn't work out that well. And then I find myself in a situation where I'm coming to God and I'm praying. I'm finally praying like I should have at the beginning, but now I'm praying more like, dear Lord, get me out of this mess that I have once again gotten myself into. And I find myself doing that. And ironically, sometimes I've found myself doing that when I'm supposed to be doing His work. And so when it comes to decisions with the church and ministry and mission in the community, and I'm making decisions, and I realize later, yeah, I wonder if I should ask God about that. I mean, it's kind of His thing. Maybe I should have involved Him in that process. And so Abraham Lincoln, I came across a quote by Abraham Lincoln this week that I had never heard before, and I'm a big fan of Abraham Lincoln. But to paraphrase, this may not be exactly right, but he said, "Sir, my concern is not whether God is on my side. My concern is whether or not I am on God's side, because God is always right." That's the question we have to ask ourselves. When we make decisions in life, are we making decisions? Are we doing our own thing and expecting God to ordain what we do and to support what we do? Or are we doing the appropriate thing and seeking God's will and wisdom before we do anything? Because that's the way that we should be operating. When we make decisions and expect God to go along with it, we put ourselves in a really bad situation. Because in all things, we should be seeking God's will. I find it, especially in our current climate, because everybody feels that God is on their side. You know, when you this is what I believe, this is what I'm going to do, this is what I feel is right, and by the way, God's on my side. And then you have somebody that's opposing you, and they say, well, this is what I feel we should do, this is what I feel is right, and by the way, God's on my side. And it's completely miscombobulated, because the only thing we should be worried about is, not is God on my side, not is God on your side, are we on God's side? As Christians, our sole focus should be, are we on God's side? But we don't really do that. And one of the reasons why, I think, and I've thought a lot about this, I think one of the reasons why we don't always seek God's will and wisdom first, we don't always seek his way above our own, is because we realize that his way may not be our way. We realize that what we want or desire and think is best, or maybe we don't even think it's best, but it's what we want and desire, we don't think that God's going to ordain that. We don't think that he'll agree. And so why don't we just do our own thing? But here's the thing. God's wisdom is so much greater than ours, and his way is so much higher than ours, that if God wouldn't want it for us, we shouldn't have it. That's what it comes down to. But yet we have to put self aside. We have to stop worrying about what we think we want, need, and deserve, and we have to start focusing on what God's desire for us is. And that's the appropriate way to consider anything in life, whether it's a decision, whether it's a path, whether it's anything that we're struggling with. You know, what's God's will in this? In the Gospel of St. Luke, in the 9th chapter, verse 23, then he said to them all, if anyone would come after me, he must deny himself, take up his cross daily, and follow me. We are called to take up our cross daily and follow him, to deny ourselves, to not worry about this world, to not worry about our desires, to not worry about what we want, but what God wants. We are to take up our cross daily and follow him. And we don't always do that. And I can tell you that I'm not talking to you from high on a pedestal. I'm not speaking down to you what you should do. I'm speaking to you about what I should do, what we all should do, because there's only one side, and that's God's side. And if we're not on God's side, we got a problem there. When you're faced with anything in this world, you shouldn't really think about first about what do I want? What do I desire? What do I need? We need to take a step back as Christians. We need to put it into the appropriate order, and we need to seek God's will, God's wisdom, because his wisdom and ways is so much higher than ours. And once we commit to following Christ and picking up our cross, we deny ourselves, and our will becomes his will, because that's what we seek to do in this world. We should never worry about doing something and then hoping that God is on our side, because that's the wrong order of doing things. When we make decisions based on what we want or desire and we don't involve God, we end up with things like daylight savings time. That's all I'm saying. So here's my advice to you. If you've got a decision to make, if you've got something that's bothering you, if you're wrestling with something, if you're trying to figure out the right path, or you're just trying to seek peace in this world, then I invite you to invite Christ into that process. Let him get involved. Seek his will and his wisdom rather than your own. Because once we do that, once we commit ourselves to following God's will and ways in all things, then we're not worried about whether or not he's ordaining what we're doing or he's on our side. Because then we're doing exactly what we're supposed to be doing, and we're all where we're supposed to be, and that's on God's side. Anyways, good talking with you. Hope this finds you all safe, happy, and well. Take care, God bless, and I'll see you soon. I really do appreciate you taking the time to watch and listen to this video, and I hope you found some words of encouragement or hope to help you in your walk this week. If you'd like to find out more information about us and our ministry, you can look at one of our Facebook pages. We have one for the Lighthouse at Indian Lake. There's also a Facebook page for the Indian Lake Community Church. If you'd like more detailed information, for example, our location and our times of worship, if you'd like to join us for worship in person, we would love to have you. Or if you want information about how you can join us for worship online, you can visit our websites at www.lighthouse@indianlake.org or www.indianlakecommunitychurch.org. There you'll find information about our in-person worship times or how you can watch us online through the website or through Facebook or through YouTube. Also on there, you'll find out more about who we are and our mission to the Indian Lake community and beyond. And if you'd like to support us through your time and your talent or the giving of your possessions financially, you'll find information how to do so on those sites also. Thanks for listening in. God bless you, and we hope to see you soon.